Good evening. Sunday slot live feed. Is it raining where you are? It certainly is here. I have never known it to rain this much. It's been raining down here in North Devon since Christmas. So, yes, well, hopefully this is working. Sometimes it doesn't work in the rain because we're still using overland cables, even though we've got Wi-Fi. So, nothing's happening at the moment. That's a few little icons bobbing in. Let's hope that we're going to get comments. That's always the next challenge. Start off every live feed like this, don't I? Every live feed. I've got a few questions here. Hopefully we're going to have, if he's available, Ian Brookman, Pallatrax team member, coming in and talking about various things. I know Ian Rooker wants to know how he sets up for his trotting. Good evening, Darren. That's even though it's got slow connection coming up. Adam, I've got a question for you about you've moved on for jungle, you're not living Crave anymore or something like that. Oh, I don't know. Darren, Adam, Ben, Ian, James, Trevor, Sean, how you doing, buddy? Won't be long, mate. You'll be back down here. Robert, good evening. Keith Powell, the editor of Catchable Fish, makes an appearance. He's actually coming down here on Tuesday to go off that big common. So, Steve Bryan, well done, Steve. Saw you catching a label pike again. Graham, Paul, Neil, Callum, how you doing? Dean, good evening. Right, so before I kick off, I'll just whilst the first surge, and I'll go through it again. Tonight's live feed draw is it's some of the smaller grips in the 14s and 16s, because we're going to be talking about trotting, and then some of the bigger ones and the catch grips. So there we go, and some cranberry booster. Great to boost up, especially in the winter. So there we go. So Steve, thanks Dean. Ian's here. Ian, you've got to invite yourself on, so you've got to press invite, and then I can get you on here, matey. What's Darren saying? Even Pom, hope you're well. We had snow. Oh no, that's settled. Then the rain washed it away now. Road flooding anywhere. Must be monsoon season. Well, it certainly feels like it, and I know so many fisheries that are completely wiped out, and the ones that aren't wiped out are just like quagmires. So, anyway, sorry, I was halfway through. Grips. Fortunately, our lakes aren't flooded. So anybody wants to go fishing, give me a shout. So that is tonight's live feed draw. All you got to do is send the word yes to it's the Pallatrax Facebook Messenger page. So just send yes through to that, not through to me or anything else, through to that. How are the teeth doing? Well, still struggling, as you can hear. My lisp is still in existence, but thanks for asking. Or are you just going to take the mickey out of me like everybody did last week? You don't feel my pain. But Chris Hunt, good evening. Stephen, good evening. Matthew Rice, good evening. Young Matthew, the fishery manager down here. So yeah, shortly I'm going to have Ian, and Ian, let's say you've got to invite yourself onto here so I can invite you on. Before that, I'm just going to give you a couple of hot tips on things. Can't believe this, can't find invite. Anybody help Ian to find invite? He's trying to come on board here, but I'm just going to turn the camera around. I did, these are some of the new things that we've got in the pipeline. I mean, Pallatrax, though, sometimes it does seem to be carp fishing. It's far more than that, in actual fact. It's just that carp fishing is so popular. So these have been sorted for me. I don't know if you can see them very well, but beautiful hand tied. I've got all kinds of things I'm looking at the moment. We've got to trial them now. Got to send them out to some anglers I know who are going to give me their warts and all about the finishing. So yes, and these are all tied obviously on grips. So, you know, various grip patterns from straight points and tens all the way through up to the wide gapes. So, Matt Woodman, good evening. Rob Jarrett, good evening. Tony Greenwood, good evening. So, yeah, so any of you fly anglers out there, watch this space for grips flies. Now, one of the reasons I like fly fishing, and I haven't done it for ages other than for carp, but also the amount of fly anglers that obviously it's very much capture and return nowadays, the amount that they're using grips to actually tie up their own patterns, and the success. I mean, we've had some incredible captures of trout, and because the grips hold firm, especially when the trout is spinning, which they tend to do, you get amazing hook holds, just amazing hook holds. So yes, we've got lots of patterns of those coming out. There we go. Hi Anthony. Matt Woodburn, they look great, Palm. When they go, I'm not sure. I've only literally got them in the other day, Matt. They've all got to be trialled and tested, and you know what I'm like, Mr. Fussy. But they do look very good, to be fair. And the fact they're on grips is, as I say, a real advantage, to be quite honest. It's I think so many people now are starting to get their head round that grips is a genuine third design, and we know barbless have its issues. I mean, obviously I'm not a fan of barbed, but grips, again, any area of fishing, why not grips? So there we go. Yes, Rob, I think you'll looking forward on your local trout lake, as I will. It'll give me a good reason to get out there and start whacking away. Right, so couple of questions whilst we're waiting for Ian. Tins?
Yeah, I'm looking as well.
Oh, but I don't know how to do it, folks. Hang on a sec, let me try. If I press that, what? This could all go horribly. Oh no, nothing's happened. I pressed it. Hang on a second. Mixer fly would be good. Yeah, well, I say there's going to be all kinds of my rod will be used every week very soon. The reservoir opens to trout fishing. That's Stephen. We'll speak, Stephen. Yes, Anthony, there's going to be all kinds of different patterns. We've just got to start off with a few at the beginning. Right, I'm just going to go on to the first question, and I'll do it this way around. Let me move all those. So it's quite cool seeing these, because if I hadn't developed grips, we would never have had grips flies, and so I'm pretty chuffed with those, to be quite honest. Right, so we did cover this last week, but it's another question. I just want to make sure it's a hi Ryan. It's, you know, basically let me just come back to my ugly face. Pallatrax is deemed to do things differently, so there's a modern narrative, I call it, out there. All companies tend to follow each other over the last 30 years, perhaps 40 years. The question here is from Graham. He's Graham Young. He's asked, I would like to know why squabs are a good choice of shape. So, like I say, if you're like me, you've got an inquisitive mind, and you start digging deep, because we're trying to catch more fish, obviously safely. So we're digging deep, and having started a bait company, 27 years ago, it's kind of, in some ways, some people would say it's backfired on me, because I've been very, very fastidious about how I make baits, but I've also gone back to the beginning, when HMV baits were good, but then you sit down there, and all I would say to people is judge and jury something. So you sit there and you go, right, why is it a round shape? Okay. That's good, Rod. Hi, Pete. Sam Roth, good evening. So, yes. So why is a boilie round? Okay, and I've literally had editors of 2 carp magazines saying to me, well, that's a bit of a staff question, it's because of throwing sticks. Well, that's obviously can't be true. Nobody invented a throwing stick, and I thought, what am I going to do with this? Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll make all baits round so they'll go out with it. Now, that is, as far as I'm concerned, the only advantage with a round shape is a throwing stick or a catapult. But then you'd have to look at limitations. So hang on. I don't know if this is working. Everything just went off then. It's never easy, is it? I'll tell you what it is. It's because water gets into the fibre on the pylons down here. Bloody living in the third world. Anyway, so going back to it. So just act as judge and jury. So you're going to sit there and go, right, did people sit there around a table and say, when they invented the first boiler or developed the book, hi John, I'm back in the room, living in the middle of wilds. So again, like I say, judge and jury, and say to yourself, what is going to be the best shape for all of the things that you want to have for a bait? So, triangle, square, squab, whatever. So you have to think of it, then you have to think how to make it. Now I can promise you, and I should know after donkey's years in the bait industry, the only reason baits are round is, you could say, either bad habit and people just expect them, you know, to be round, like a wheel should be round, or the real reason is because of the profitability. So you can make these much quicker. They roll down the chutes. They're easy to air dry because you can shape the trays. But then you have to say, right, okay, so we've got the round shape. So what are the limitations we've got on the round shape? Now, the thing is, what we know is when we're hair rig fishing, carp or tench or whatever species, they're sucking the bait in, and then they're basically ejecting it. And the reasons they're ejecting it at particular times, we will never know. But basically, if it's not got food source, if they spook off the rig, you know, there's a load of reasons why we know they eject. The fact is, ultimately, they have to try and eject because it's stuck onto a hair. So now, would you want something spitting out something that's round, that's got smooth edges? And also, we know for a fact that the round shape underwater is the fastest shape. It travels. So the front of a submarine, front of a torpedo, ships with those big bulges in the front, is because it displaces water quicker. So if you were to sit there and say, right, okay, yeah, it might be easy to make, but it has its limitations, it has its flaws, and that's just the simple truth. So therefore you're looking, but also then you think, well, if I'm pushing it out and I'm fishing on a drop off, a slope, well, do I really want a round shape and I'm fishing at the top of it and it's going to go down? So, right, Ian, I think I've got you. So let me just finish this and then we'll come on to you, sir. So stand by. If I missed anybody or whatever, I do apologise. So if you're fishing on a river, do you want a round shape when the toe's going downstream? Do you want it to move out? So you start looking at all these things. So the advantage is, it's more profitable. Well, as an angler, I'm not interested in that. I want to catch more fish. Its advantages, I can put it on a throwing stick. Now, personally, I don't use a throwing stick. I use a spom or a catapult. That's not to say others don't, but that I'm not going to sacrifice all your disadvantages or all the advantages for disadvantages just so I can put this out on a throwing stick or a catapult. That doesn't make any sense to me. So then you look at and say, what can you make and how can you make things? And that's when I came up with the squab concept. So I sat there and said, what shape do I want? Well, I want something with corners. You could also say if fish do, and there is lots of evidence that fish do learn by association, will they learn by the round shape? I don't know. It's just, we throw it out there. So why is it that shape? And it's interesting, Mainline have come out with some stuff, I think they're called quads. A similar shape to this, and their marketing is all about it being anti-eject. So therefore, they're kind of admitting, it's a bit like stones and leads. They're trying to camouflage lead with something, so they're admitting there's an issue there. And Mainline, by doing that, has kind of said the same thing. And you know, I think they're right, because, you know, it makes obvious sense. So you've got four corners, so when they're spitting out eject, it'll oscillate. It won't go down banks, it will sit there. It won't go down the stream or the river bottom, you know. So basically, I've designed it to do certain jobs. Now, I can't get it out in a throwing stick, and I can get it out to some degree in a what's the word I'm looking for? Catapult. It's been a long day. And so therefore, that is why I use the squab shape. It hasn't endeared us with a lot of people, because obviously the narrative is you've got to use round. But it's a shame that more people don't realise, because when you're trying to stack the odds all in your favour, if you've done everything right, fish picks up, and because you've got smooth sides, it just ejects the bait, and it's all been a waste of time. And I want to put all those odds, and so consequently I fish on that shape because I believe it. It takes more to make, longer to make, so therefore it's less profitable, but it gives me the advantages that I've highlighted. Now, you might not believe me, but the simple truth is I can tell you as a bait manufacturer, that's why it's round. The machines make them round. They can make them quickly. You can't make another shape quicker than that. But it's got its flaws, and they're provable. They're provable. So at the end of the day, I'm not here. I'm about performance over profit. I'm fishing on that shape, not because I'm trying to be bloody minded, but the industry will make out it's a bit like stones or a bit like grips. I'm fishing to add odds and go higher up in catching, adding odds to percentages and catching more fish. And we've caught thousands and thousands of fish on this, and there's only some of us fishing on them. You know, I haven't fished a round shape in probably 25 years now. And all I would say, like much in carp fishing or hair rig fishing, where else do you see round baits? Nowhere. You know, a lot of the stuff in carp fishing, especially slack lines, round baits, all these kind of things, big heavy leads, camouflage with green paint or whatever. Nowhere else do you see that in any other areas of fishing. So perhaps sometimes it would be good for people just to sit back and say, what happens if we're following that narrative and it has flaws? So you can get a round bait, chop it in half and put it back to back. They call it the butterfly. So you're changing the shape, changing the dynamic of when it spits out. But I just want a shape that I can take straight out of the packet, and it makes sense to do it. It makes sense to do it. Ross is saying, I don't know, an angler who doesn't cut up the boilies, and as they end up looking like a squab. I can assure you, Rob, unfortunately, lots and lots and lots of people just grab a bag from a shop, it's round, and it's almost like, I'm not being rude here, but they're pre-programmed to use the round shape, because that's what a boilie is. It's meant to be round. Well, it isn't. It's just made to be round, if that makes sense. Thanks, Graham. Hopefully that's answered. I've been here a few weeks and asked you a few questions, but I'm sold. It makes complete sense to me. Thank you. Yeah, well, thanks. And I'm here to, you know, some people don't like the fact that I'm questioning the industry. But I think I've always been on the angler's side of the table, if that makes sense. And I can't sell something. I can make rounds. I can make them probably twice as quick as I can make squabs. But I'm not going to sell you something that I don't believe in. You know, and I know that might be naive business practice or whatever, but I'm happy with this. And I know, to be fair, going forward, as Pallatrax grows, people like yourself, Graham, I've explained it here, other people will start to look at it, other people will start to realise that, why are we using a round shape? What are the reasons? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? And once you start to question the narrative, once you start to say, well, you know, it actually has, that bloke's got a point. You know, and you start looking at changing the bait and changing how you don't want to just chop your hook bait up and then put out all your freebies as rounds. And that's why we do what we do. So, good. Hi, John. Oh, problem logging in. I agree with you. Early post, very wet in Bedfordshire. Yeah, I think it's wet everywhere, isn't it? Andre, all the way from Slovakia. Any snow out there yet, Andre? Right. Where's he gone? You've gone now, Ian. If you invite yourself back now, mate, and I can hopefully get you on. So, Ian Brookman, hopefully incoming. Your little red icon's gone. Where are you? Hopefully this is going to work. Couldn't add guest. What is that then? Do it again. Add. Oh, couldn't add guests. This person was unable to join because of technical issues. That's about par for the course, isn't it? Hi Ed, hope you're well. Oh, try again, Ian. It's all going wrong. Well, it wouldn't be right if it was Pom's live feed and everything went slickly and smoothly. Right, he's back. Ian Brookman, add. If they accept, they'll join. No. Don't know, Ian. Perhaps turn your phone off and come back on again, mate, and try that, because it's saying there's a technical issue at your end. It's probably at my end, but... So any other questions about that? Because I think it's a huge... This gives you, I suppose, a reason to question the narrative, not just about this, but about other things. And it's interesting, you know, I've got no problem naming him, Danny Fairbrass. I don't see eye to eye with Danny Fairbrass. For years, he's been saying, predominantly because of the dumping of lead, but for years he's been saying using 7+ inch hook links. I've always been saying use 3.5 to 4.5 inches. He's now come out and said, actually, you get more fish by using shorter hook links. So it is worth questioning a narrative that seems to have no real evidence behind it, but lots of flaws once you start believing in it. It's like slack lines. I go on about slack lines. You tell me anywhere in angling where you use a slack line, you cannot get a drop back on slack line. That's just a fact. And so people are missing opportunities all the time. Snow in Slovakia. Yeah. No way, Stephen. This is how we know it's not scripted, yeah. Right, here we go. What's Anthony saying? I was talking to a mate the other day about lead weight dropping being banned. His reply was fish are okay, aren't they? What they don't seem to be understanding or wanting to understand is lead is getting banned for various reasons in Europe. The priority reason is the harm to human health, especially children, from the manufacturing processes, because it's not regulated. But also, there's and it's written into the legislation, a drop lead will harm aquatic life. That's in the legislation. So people saying they don't, oh, it disappears in the mud, that's the worst place it could go, because A, it's irretrievable, and B, it's impacting on you know, the substrate life. So it's very, very, very frustrating. Yes, Sean, yeah, I'm trying again. Right. Hi, Galen, all the way from Canada. Much snow there. Right, here we go. It's saying, let me take that out. Let me do that. Let me add. No. Sorry, Ian. Sorry, folks, but it doesn't look like we're going to get young Ian onto the live, which is a boot disaster because I've got nothing else prepared. I'll just throw these in again. So tonight's live feed draw, grips and some cranberry booster to bling up your hook baits, water based, so it's really, really good for pop-ups and things like that. Trouble is, it's oil based, it just sits on the side. Anthony say I tried to explain that, it's still not having it. Well, I think again it shows you the power of the marketing. But if they I don't want to come across as rude, because it's not a case of being rude, but if they want to be naive, that's not being rude by saying that, and just not questioning. The irony is, and I've had 2 tackle shops, the people that are telling you to dump leads, ironically, they're selling leads. So I would have suggested that gives a little bit of an introduction. But if you look at the ECHA report, you look at what's going on in Europe, you look at the evidence, we're killing the substrate life, which ultimately supports everything from water quality through to the fish. And don't get me wrong, go and buy non-toxic off Evolve or Dinsmore's, or I fish a stone because it's natural. It's a different tactical approach. If you're going to use a man-made weight, don't use one that's toxic. It's as simple as that. I use a computer. If you're using a computer, well, hopefully Ian Simon can stop long as flat out in pub. But what drinking is that? Later when you go, you have a good evening. Some just closed-minded, mate. Yeah, I saw you put a post the other day in on one of these, and the trouble is, they go on about fish safety, like, as we should, so like nets and mats and things, and then we're poisoning the water with baits that, a couple of quid a kilo, that cannot be good for water quality, and then we're dropping lead as well, and I just don't get it, and because if you look at me, I've been knocking around this game for a long time, and it's sad that, because I'd like to have moved things forward in lots of other areas, but we have definitely been held back by not being able to come out and say that's what we now. I've got a great group of people behind us, the team, all of this kind of thing. What happens, and it's not about me, but what happens if this person, by researching and looking for the facts, is actually right and the industry's wrong? And there's lots of kind of cases throughout history where the narrative's been completely turned on its head by questioning. And that's all I'm saying. If you question, I would suggest you're going to catch a lot more fish and you're going to work in harmony with the environment. There's nothing wrong with doing that. What's Cliff saying? On the whole, shorter lengths gives better results, but I fished a couple of lakes where the carp have been observed to hover and used their fins still at the bottom and then pick up what comes. The longer length with a waft, they then fire out fishes. Like I say, all I would say, Cliff, to that, and I don't, obviously I can't really comment, I don't know the water or whatever, but what you've got to be careful of, and the confusion in carp fishing as well, is about inconsistency. So I tend to fish with what I think is 4.5 inch hook link. That is the most consistent hook link. If I want to length for me, and with the older steam link rig being the go-to, whether it's bottom bait or not, it's like a little fishing rod, and then you've got that flexibility. But if you've got fish that you think are doing you because it's an extended rig, that's when I use the weed rig, which is, I haven't got one here, but that's when I fold it back into the method ball, and so then I've got 2 or 3 inches of basically slack line, so when they suck up it will go back in. But like I say, each to their own. But what I would caution is the confusion about rigs and rig lengths and all these different things. They can only prove to be very, very inconsistent, and I'm trying to find an inconsistent. But I hear what you're saying, Cliff, and I don't dispute it. Anthony will get more weights from Evolve. Yeah, good stuff. If anyone wants to check out, here we go. There you go. And thank you very much, James. James has put up the Echo report and the links to it. And I would say it's worth, 10 minutes, quarter of an hour of your time to read the relevant passages in there to realise that, being frank, you're being lied to. People out there who are saying that they are in the know and there's nothing wrong with lead, are lying, or they don't know, and they're just being really naive. It's one of the two, I'm afraid. Don't like to say it, but it is. No, they're not PVA friendly, John, and the reason is because they're made with water. And again, we've got other products that are PVA friendly, like the glugs and things like that. But the trouble is, if you use a booster, as I said earlier, and it's on an oil base, like MPG or something like that, which I'm not into any rate, it won't ingress into the bait. So I use this predominantly. I use that on my pop-ups. It's very, 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 very strong flavour levels. But because it's water-based, it will then actually suck in to the bait. So that's why it's not PVA friendly. So hope that helps. The booster liquids are always, thanks for that. You need to get some of that steam link and give it a try this year. I mean, for you to be able to get a rig that you can take off that shot and it'll be the perfect bottom bait. But the main thing, it's a shame I can't show you very well, but that, just get that there, that piece there. So you've got the kicker, serious shrink kicker, and then you've got this piece of exposed. That's Dyneema, and you don't want to have a swivel, or you'll never beat that. So all these rigs with swivels to get rotation, you'll never beat that, I can promise you. And that's why this rig works so well, because you've got stiff to supple. So here's one that's, and then you can look at it and you can see how stiff it is, but how supple and how much rotation you get. That it's incredible. And I searched for this. It wasn't just, you know, it's not just kind of a thought or a theory. It actually works. And when people say, oh, it's just a coated hook link. No, it's not. It's a coated Dyneema, and it's got a different coating as well. So never again just assume that that is just like, you know, a coated hook link. So yeah, Anthony, I'm not trying to flog you anything, but I tell you what, it's a game changer. Not sure. It's very interesting breed. Yes, it is, Tony. You're right there. I'm taking that's the Echo report. You buy them ready tied. Yeah, you can buy the Steam Link ready tied in all the different hooks. So yeah, is that a pre-made one? This is. I've just done a video on. There was. I did it last week. Was it last week? I did a video. If you go onto my YouTube channel, Catch More Fish TV, there is an older one. But also, if you're a team member, I know it sounds crazy because I've got nothing else to do, but I do actually do a team exclusive where these are made for you by my fair little hands. It's getting a bit problematic now because I'm sometimes tying a lot of them, but whilst I've got the time and the energy, I'm more than happy to do it. But it takes out any need for all of that stuff you see on these rigs. You don't need it. You'll never get that rotation on a swivel. Impossible. Because we tried it and you can't. And that's because it's Dyneema. And Dyneema is the strongest material to the lowest diameter on the planet. Dyneema is not a made-up name. It's actually a name like steel or aluminium. Dyneema is what Dyneema is. And I can't beat it. And you've got Galen on here, and Galen does his underwater filming out in Canada, and plenty of times we've got them where the fish come on and just get nailed and nailed and nailed. So, oh, there we go. I think Tinny's just put up the grips so you can see how. Yeah, that's a point pump. Can you send me the invite? I have tried to send you an invite in. I'll try again. This is interesting. You should say that, John. It could be me this end in because it keeps on coming up saying poor connection and things like that. Christen, they kind of started things off, and if you look at it and how they thank you, Stephen, thank you. The David who used to own Christen, and I thought Christen was a brilliant company back in its day. It's been bought now by, I think it's Czechoslovakia, and it doesn't really feature over in the UK. And he was in a skip. I know the guy. He was in a skip and he found this. Basically, it's from electrical kind of stuff, and he found it in there. And it had the coating, and he took it back to his house, and he made this rig out of it. And that was, remember Mantis, John? Yeah, Mantis green and Mantis gold and things like that. And now, great, but it was braid, so it was thicker, and also it didn't give me the reason. Oh, hang on a second. I'll draw that on the floor. The reason this. Sorry, I digress somewhat, but the reason that works so well is because it's so stiff. Now, you wouldn't get that with Mantis, so you want the stiffness. I don't care, right, if that rig is sitting like that. It's all about that. As long as it goes in the mouth, you know, people were thinking it's all flat on the ground and things like that. No, that's a huge assumption. The fact is, you need that rotation. And so when it goes in the mouth, especially when it's associated with the squab shape, your catch rate goes up. And obviously, you know, you have to believe me, but I've got no hidden agenda. I honestly believe in everything I've said. I've been doing this for years and years and years. I want us to catch more fish. I know, especially in conjunction with the grips, you've got that all-rounded rig, and that's why I don't play around with rigs. I know, obviously, anglers will do what they want to do, and if they're happy, that's nothing to do with me. But I've got to a stage in my fishing now where I fish consistently, And the only thing, as I've mentioned a load of times, I do differently is I'll change where I put the trap, and I will change, like you do in all other areas of fishing, I will change the bait. Again, carp fishing is a strange one where people go, oh, this year I'm just going to fish on company X's bait. And you think, well, that's like saying I'm only going to fish on one fly pattern. You're only going to catch when that fly pattern's working. And that's why I use a lot of things like those, you know, the reactive ranges, because I can take 3 or 4 of these different pots and, you know, they screen boost and attraction and food and things like that. So, right, hang on a second. I'll just give this, Gary, there is a competition, always will be. So it's for some of the smaller grips and the Monster Cat, which is an amazing hook design, or pattern of the grip design, and a cranberry booster. So all you've got to do is send the word yes to the Pallatrax Facebook Messenger page. So Facebook Messenger page, not me or anything else, and then you'll be added, and that will be drawn shortly. Oh, there we go. What would your best tip for catching carp in the winter spring? It's basically, honestly, location. You can't catch anything, Callum, unless you're in the right spot, and that might be the right depth as well. So, you know, that's why zigs can work all year round, because you're fishing. Hi Vince, hope you're well. It is location. And because they're not moving around, they're not actively feeding. It is a case of, you know, doing your best to finding fish, seeing fish move, you know, bubbles, local knowledge, all this kind of stuff. But sorry, we're still trying to get Ian on here. 1 second, folks. I'm just going to try something else. See, I did that. Oh, it could be working now. It might be working now.
Hey!
Oh, yay! I can't see you though. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
This happened before where I couldn't see you. So, folks, let me just make sure. The biggest problem with Crosston Woods is lack of anti-tangle properties. Yes, Stephen. And again, that is the beauty of the old Steam Link, because it's so stiff and because we've got this serious shrink anti-tangle boom there. I don't use those big anti-tangle booms. It's pretty damn impossible to tangle. So another advantage. So, folks, you can probably all see him, but I don't know what's wrong with my camera or what's wrong with everything I do. But this is team member Ian Brookman. How you doing, Ian?
I'm all right. Fine, thank you. Yourself?
Yes, I'm
Good.
living the dream with my mouth still giving me some grief. But there we go. Bring back OXC. Can see you both. That's the main thing. Krypton is a hook link I've used. Christ, I think it is. Merlin braid, yeah, tried the first link called Blue Silkworm, but I could not tie it, but it was there before Knotler's Knot. So yes, John. So I've got a question for you straight away, young man. What is your best method and setup for trotting, for your grayling and everything else you catch on the trot?
Primarily what I've been doing is using 4-pound mainline on a 12 to 15 foot rod and a centre pin reel, usually a 6 gram float with a wire stem to give it stability, and then I will put float stops on the main line, an olivet, then another float stop, so I can alter where that weight will be beneath the float, in the flow if you like. So that's not fished with the olivet on the bottom, it's fished at mid depth, and then below that I will have a small quick change swivel, because I get through a lot of hooks and hook links throughout the day. And then if I'm using bread, I will take the olivet further down. If I'm using maggots, then I will keep them at mid depth. Does that make sense? Everybody's gone quiet.
Does that make sense, Ian? I think last thing's yeah. I mean, just quickly, am I really? I'm looking on my. Oh, he's gone now.
No,
No, he's.
I'm still
Oh,
here.
right. So, no, I don't know what happened. It's all. Am I really close up to the screen, folks?
No, don't think so.
On my phone here, I am.
On my, yeah, maybe a little bit.
Alright, tea family.
I can't go any further back. I'll be in the garden.
He'll be on Jack's pool.
I wish I was down there yesterday. Yes, Pom, I am really close to the screen. Ian's come back and said, oh, absolutely. So what's your biggest tip in trotting then, from a location point of view?
If you've got a crease, obviously a crease will be literally, you will see where the main flow is and then where the slower flow in the river is. I would always try both. I will try it on the inside of the crease if I want to present slower, or I will go in the direct flow if I want to present slightly faster. So if I was fishing for the grayling, I would look for faster water. If I was looking for chub, I would come inside on that slack water.
Does that make sense, folks? I can't hear him.
Oh, I don't know what's happened now.
Oh, now I can hear you. I don't know what. I have no idea what's going on.
Keeps coming and going, I take it.
And Galen's saying I need to move my camera further away, but how close is your camera to you here?
About 18 inches.
I'm at least 2 foot away, and all you can see is my forehead.
Well, people have
Better
said
look at
things
big
like that in the
teeth.
past.
Oh, Adam's come up with a question here. Do you ever use crave?
I do use crave, Adam. Yes, I know that that's your favourite. I stick to using it as a hook bait, whereas you stick to using it for pulling potion. I understand. Aftershave, but you know, I do use the crave, and I have done very well when I've been out carp fishing. I had some great times out in France. Oh, Pom's disappeared. I had some great times out in France using crave, which resulted in one particular week to a fish of 53 pounds. And considering what the other guys were doing as well, I was definitely top rod that week. So yeah, I can't not crave. One of the favourite baits.
Well, it's an interesting, and actually, as you can see, I'm working trying to get my face in the camera. It's pretty sad, isn't it, really? But Baldy Dave, and actually mentioned him in last month's Catch All Fish. Hang on, we're now trying it at a different level. Oh, this is pathetic, isn't it? And he's actually down here on Tuesday. I haven't seen Baldy for donkey's years. We kept in contact. Now it's going to fall over. And he's actually, we reconnected. And he's down here on not this Tuesday. He's down here on beginning of April. That's it. And he's the guy that actually developed crave all those years ago. And crave's actually well over 40 years old. The recipe. It's had to have a few changes. Let's see what I'm talking. You can't even see me now.
That's what everyone asked for.
You just see the top of my head. Can you see me, folks?
We can see the top of your head and your hand in one. Yeah.
Well, you'll have to live with that. I don't know what's going on. It's okay for us to just leave it alone. Okay. Keep going, Ian. Pom's having a nightmare, just like Charlie Chaplin. Thank you very much. I am literally, you can't see me anymore. Anyway, I'll carry on talking. And all those times I thought Pom was my hero, but it turns it's Baldy Dave. Yes, no, Baldy Dave is definitely the hero. He came up with. We've had to. This is quite an interesting one. You see a lot of talk out there about Robin Red by Haste, and Robin Red was actually quite a big factor in Crave. It's a fish meal base with you know, various flavours and additives like green lip mussel and things. But the Hayes, about 4 or 5 years ago, they had to stop using, or we had to stop using robin red in baits, because basically it was making the fish go red. It's used in like pigeon fancying to bring out the plumage. Nice hairline, I try my best. And they had to actually change the formula. So anything that's robin red now is not the same as it used to be, ironically. It's just the same name. I don't think necessarily a lot of people know about that, but it lost a lot of that, that kind of spice. Oh, about there. Everybody's taking my hair. Leave me alone. Can't you realise I'm slightly, I should be in a white jacket somewhere. So yeah, so robin red is no longer as it was initially formulated, because literally if you put loads of it in bait and the fish are on it, they would literally get red bellies. There was one bait several years ago, it was banned, but it stopped producing it because it was purple, and if fish got onto it, they all went purple. So that's what you've got to be very careful of with some of the stuff that goes into the modern boil baits. Can get into the pigmentation, will be absorbed throughout. I've got full face now. There you go. That's the best I can do. So yeah, interesting. But you and Adam are off soon, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we've come to the conclusion now. It's just I think it was 4 weeks. So yeah, another French trip. Going to be under the belts, and then I'm only back for 4 weeks, and then I'm back out again. So yeah, I didn't get too much in last year in terms of French trips, and it just didn't happen. Too much work going on, and this year I've decided that I'm going to get back and make the most of it this year.
Yeah, no, I must admit I haven't been for a couple of years now. I'd like to go back to a place called Carp in Belgium, which got a sturgeon lake. Me and Rich Shaw had great fun there. But then you'll be coming down here. We'll see you down here.
Yeah, got to get down to you as well soon.
Yeah. Steve's saying, what's your favourite bait for trotting?
It varies really, because you know, like any situation, you've got to have what you need on the day, and as we found out when I was on the Y with you last year, I started off using maggots and couldn't get through the minnows, so I then tried sweet corn, and that was again the same thing. The minnows was just smashing it to hell. So in the end I ended up with the bread and started to get the chub, and I ended up losing a few sea trout, unfortunately. But bread mash is an absolute godsend if you're looking for the chub. Oh, dogs have been let out.
Which is an interesting one, because if you look at the modern ingredients for bread and how it used to be made when there was only 4 ingredients, it's very much a different thing now. It's still the same, isn't it? It's still called bread, but it's totally different. Totally different.
I have seen people say about tiger loaf as well, because of the salt content, and you know, we can smell it's much stronger. You imagine what that must be like to a fish. They must be able to smell it from miles away.
Taste it, yeah. Callum's saying, I'll answer it first and then you can have a go. If you had one tip for carp, what would it be? If you could only use, well, my main tip is never expect them to come to you. Always go to them. Always cast at them if they're moving. Never ever think they'll come to you, whatever time of the year. If you sat there when I was your age, or possibly a little bit older, I would literally move at night if they were crashing down the other end of the lake, because I was so obsessed. One rig, can't beat it. I just can't beat it. I'm not saying it can't be beaten on its day, but it never has been. you know, and that's it. That Steam Link rig on the team exclusive. That's exactly how they're all exactly the same. The kicker's set at the same angle, so it's like developing a mouse trap, and therefore it has to work the same. And one bait. Well, is it a boil bait? If it was a boil bait, it would probably be multi-worm out of my stable of baits, though Adam would disagree. But if you said I could only use one bait, it would probably be worms. Worms are devastating. It's just the trouble is everything eats a worm. Yeah, and you should never forget naturals. The other thing is, I suppose, just to throw a bit of a curveball in, I always, or 99% of the time, I'll fish with the method mix. Most people in carp fishing don't fish the method. I've had people say to me, I'll fish the method, you know, I didn't catch anything. But again, they're not focusing on what your method mix is made of and what impact that will actually have. So those are my top tips. Make sure you go to them, you cast to them. Don't think, oh, because as soon as you start making a statement where it's an assumption, you could be wrong. So many people I know will say, oh, I'm not going to cast a moving fish because they'll come to me. Well, in all other areas of fishing, you cast at moving fish. Rig, like I say, it's a complete mess, the rig market. You've got every company in there telling you, you know, there's 1,001 different rigs. Well, nowhere else in angling is there that. The match angler who's catching huge carp, they're fishing very, very simple rigs. And like I say, bait worms, if you're going to give, you know, I had to hang my hat on it, but if it was a Pallatrax bait, multi-worm has just caught so many fish. But what about you, Ian?
For me, again, like you said, worms. If you can find fish that are feeding, a 3-line worm will do it almost in an instant. And again, also, like you said, you got to go find them. If you was going out deer hunting, you wouldn't just stand in the field and take a shot into the wild, would you? And hope to hit something. So why do we do that when we're out fishing? You can't just chuck your rig out into 30, 40 acres of water and expect fish to just show up and have it. You might get away with it a bit in the summer, but you sure as hell won't get it in the winter and, you know, early spring. You have to be on them.
No, yeah, I mean, if you're on what we call a runs of water, where the fish, we call them cricket bats, you can see they're really thin. That's because they're hungry and they're on the lookout all the time for food, which is a little bit sad. I think, you know, we should be looking after fish a little bit better than that. But the truth is, like you said, if you were going to go and hunt, I don't know, an elephant, you'd learn about all the habits of an elephant, where it is at certain times of the year, what it's feeding, you know, all these kind of things. And that's where you would plot up. You wouldn't like just stand in the middle of a desert expecting an elephant suddenly to wander past you. No. And if you did see one in the distance, again, you wouldn't think it's going to come to you. You've got to go to them. I know obviously that can be difficult because a lot of times you might have to set up in one swim, but if you don't, and you see fish moving, it's like places like Horseshoe, which Ian knows as well. You know, if you're sitting up in the shallows and they start boshing out a white post, unless you go on your toes, you will not catch them. You will not catch them.
I think there's a lot to be said, you know, to travel lighter. If we all really scaled back, stripped out our kit, we wouldn't take half the stuff that we do, and that is half the reason for why we don't catch as much.
And also at night, you know, I mean, just because it goes dark for us, that kind of curtails a lot of our fishing and, you know, putting bait out and things like that. So it's almost like we you know, the light switches off and then we stop fishing. You know, we go to bed or we look at our phones or whatever we do. When in actual fact, you know, if you work hard at night, if you spom at night, if you rebait at night, recast at night, you know, you're working your swim like again, the match angler being that example. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They're not working their swim to the fullest ability 24/7. Now, okay, you've got to get some kit. Watching water is another one, isn't it? And how many people are sat in their bivvies on their phones? Each their own, don't get me wrong, but if you're not watching the water and fish are moving, how are you expected to see them and therefore fish to them? So I'm losing loads of, sorry, there's loads of comments here. Let me just go through. Adam's saying we can add you to a live chat. Yeah, we can try that when you're in France. Galen, sorry, there's loads of comments here, but I'll go over to you with this one, Ian. What is your approach from Galen in Canada when fishing a French lake? Is there any difference between fishing in France versus the UK? The carp speak French, so other than that,
they eat snails.
yeah, they eat snails.
No.
What would you say to that then?
For me, nothing changes. I tend to fish quite heavy over here. You know, I use the gamma line in 0.40. It is 0.40, 0.43, one or the other anyway. But I use that, and I know it's bulletproof, so I ain't got to worry about it. Steam Link in 25 pound, always the same. And do I change anything? No. What I will look at doing, though, as I have said to Adam in the last couple of days, I fish for one fish at a time. There's too many of us that go out there thinking we're going to club it, and we go straight in with 3 or 4 kilo of bait and then wonder why we ain't getting nothing. So for me,
and also, if I can add to that, Ian, also when people say I put in 3 or 4 kilos of bait, what does that actually mean from a protein content and nutritional value content? You know, I know it sounds mad, but as a bait manufacturer, you don't want to use a lot of my bait.
No,
because it's just, you know, HOV, high nutritional value. You're just going to feed the fish up. But you know, I've seen people say, oh, you've got to go to France, you've got to take at least 25 kilos. It's all meaningless because they're not, you know, countering what the actual nutritional value of something is. You know, 25 kilos of mace between 25 kilos of, say, a Pallatrax bait, you know, the nutritional value is just totally different. And people don't think of that. I'm fishing over like 20 kilos, but what does that actually mean? Just because the words bait's bait. But I'm like Ian, I don't change the difference. I fish one at a time. I still fish the method. I've fished to over 50 pound in France on the method. I don't change anything. Just because there's a channel between us and France, it doesn't really change the factors. You know, I'll move. But the only thing is, you know, I fish places like Medine, which is 10,000 acres, and Vinkaveen, which is even bigger. And you do sometimes have to set your stall out. You know, like when I fished Vinkaveen, I've been fishing off of like a little island in the middle of nowhere, and you literally do have to set your stall out. But outside of that, when the waters are smaller and I can move around them and things like that, I will do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Ryan Jones is saying, are you doing it?
Sorry.
Pardon?
Also, with that approach out there, in you know, on different sized waters, if you're fishing a deep water, you might want to put more bait in just to get them to go down on it, because they ain't going to go down on it for, you know, a spoonful really. But if you've got several spoonfuls down there, then they might go for it.
But also, we would counter that, and because I find really difficult to articulate here, is what is that spoonful made out of?
Well, I mean, yeah, well, yeah, as we both know, a decent bait. You know, we know what your bait's going to do, and we know what the pellet will do. We've seen that. And you've got a bit of chopped worm in there. You're giving every kind of signal that you need to give to those fish.
And like you say, if you're fishing on the deck, but, you know, don't forget surface fishing. People in France say they don't come off the surface in France, and it's like, well, why not? It probably is that you're just not fishing for them.
Yeah.
So Ryan is asking, are you doing another trip to Bramblemere this year, Ian?
No, because it's fully booked up, and those trips tend to go very, very quickly. I am very lucky, as in, if there's something going, Steve does let me know. It's handy to have neighbours. But as far as I know, everything is booked up, unfortunately. So there, unless it's going to be a really short notice one, that would be the only chance.
There we go. Steve Thompson, how do you standardise the kicker angle? Now, this is really quite an interesting one. And this is why I don't sell kickers. Now, if you look at, like I say, a manufactured kicker, they're all at the same angle. Yeah. So therefore, you're using different hook patterns, but using a kicker at the same angle. And if the shank is you know, offset, or, you know, whatever it is, you're set by the kicker angle you've bought, if that makes sense. Whereas with me, because when I'm using, haven't got any different ones here, but using the natural contours, so there's a slight intern, slight intern on the eye of the wide gape here. So as soon as you put that through the steam, it will actually follow that, and that's what you're looking at doing, because I'm looking at increasing the gape between there and there, from there and there. So it naturally folds in. Now, if I'm going to use, say, a long shank or a curved shank, that's why I would use a different, you know, it might be a different length of shrink. It could be, you know, just setting at a different angle. And that's why the serious shrink, I know, go on about it. It's far more, again, I'm not regimented by being, say, that's a kicker angle. I can decide for myself what the kicker angle is. So hopefully that makes sense. And the one thing I do is, and this is just what I do, let me hang on a second. I've got one here. I'm going to turn my camera around a second. So when I'm doing this, and this is what Keith's just edited a film, so we'll be putting that out. So get my serious shrink, and then I literally put it down. So now the shrink, the end of the shrink is opposite, hang on a second, opposite the point of the hook. All right, so dead opposite. Then, so that length to the eye, I will then do the same there. So I will come across and I will cut exactly the same. So it's the same length from the eye that way to the same length down to the point opposite. Does that make sense? And then when, you know, always be very careful with steaming, but that, I don't know if you can see it, it's got a slight intern to it. Oh, how can I get that? Slight intern to it. So when you steam that, that will follow that, and that will naturally give you that curl. And like I say, you go back to that, and then you've got that massive amounts of rotation, and you'll never ever get what anybody ever says to you. You'll never get that on a swivel. And I look at all these rigs that include swivels nowadays, and various bits of stuff hanging off hooks and things like that, and it's like it doesn't actually stack up, in my humble opinion. And you'll never, and the reason that swivels there, and I say watch underfishing. If you watch underfishing, you'll see how many times the Ronnie gets done, because it doesn't do that swivel that everybody's assuming it will do. So there you go. Hopefully that makes sense.
We just had a message from Jason on here, and he's asking about he says that he's got to re-spool his reels in the near future. I have just said to him to PM me, but in all fairness, you can't go wrong with Gamma line. Super supple, hygroscopic, so it sucks up the water and becomes really heavy, sinks like a brick. It's almost, I'd say it's very nearly as, you know, as heavy as fluorocarbon once it's soaked up, and it goes on and casts a treat, and it's robust, isn't it? I mean, how many of us have had it rubbing against branches and God knows what, and it's held up? Never had any issues with it.
But again, as you know, because, you know, we're close to each other, so you know the score that, you know, I sourced Gamma. It's not fishing line, it's tennis string, just happens to be made from the same material. The facts, I'm interested in facts. And so when people say, oh, you know, line X is, or line Y or line whatever is the best. Well, it'll only be the best if it actually is the best. So it's made from the best copolymers. Again, there's so much confusion talked about the whole line thing, and it will be something I'll do a live feed on to again tell the anglers the truth, the real truth, and nothing but the truth, because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors put out there about line. The one thing about Gamma, I use Gamma because I can't beat it. from the facts, the evidence, and that's what all I'm concerned. There'll be people saying here that company X, company Y is better. Well, not if you know the manufacturing procedures. And again, it's not big-headed or anything. I'm just in a position to do it. When I met Gamma at a show in Las Vegas years ago, it blew my mind. I then got back on a plane a month later, flew back to Pittsburgh, where I met the crew, and it is chemistry. It's actually chemistry. And whereas other fishing line, you know, wherever it's manufactured, it's then re-spooled in Europe, say Hungary or Italy or wherever, and then it's sold into spools to companies. Gamma is a totally different kettle of fish, and we know, and that's why we all fish on it. If we know why we're fishing on it, because it's been irradiated.
Sorry, Simon. Your liquid worm and maggot, is it liquid worm and maggot?
Yep.
Does that have a additive in there to stop it spoiling, if you like?
Yeah, it has to, because it is just literally blitz worm and blitz maggot.
Right.
So yeah.
Because obviously we all know that the price of a kilo of worms is 20 quid. So that one bottle, surely, if that went in, or not the whole bottle, but a measure of that went into your mix, you would be giving off those same aminos and everything.
Oh yeah. Like, well, you know me. I'm not going to just bring stuff out for the sake of it. There's loads of stuff I could bring out, isn't there? There's just absolutely loads of stuff. It would be easy peasy, but I don't think it would catch us any more fish. It would certainly confuse us. But how can we not have, worms and maggot in the stable when everything, look at all the dried naturals and things like that. All this stuff is and to be quite honest, the trade is now jumping on. You'll see baits out there now with soldier fly in it, and lots more people are realizing where bait came from. It's all about not the ingredients, it's about the flavors and the colors. And now people are realizing it is about the base ingredients, and the natural attraction of insects and natural food sources is going to be better than a lot of just a bland, a flavor. A flavor is just to get us kind of, that's going to catch me fish, when in reality, is it? It might catch you. The trouble is, what will happen is you'll have a favorite flavor. I used to estuarberry, and then I used to say to people, I catch fish on estuarberry. The only reason I was catching on estuarberry was because I was fishing estuarberry. So it's a bit like if I've been fishing plastic sweet corn, I was catching on plastic sweet corn, and that's where I suppose the anomalies come into it. The trouble is with well, look at my worst selling bait historically, not now, but historically, was multi-worm. And the reason why people wouldn't, I'd say to people, but it's full of natural ingredients. Yeah, but it smells horrible. And that was the reason why people wouldn't buy it. Nothing about the actual art of angling. And that's what I get frustrated. I mean, I saw a pod the other day come out, £1,200 for a rod pod. And you're just thinking, each to their own. If people want to buy that and spend that money, that, like I say, everybody does what they want to do. But don't forget the basics of angling. We go, it's almost sometimes now I look at some people and think they're not even going fishing. They bought all this stuff and they've spent no money or time or thought on what they're putting underneath the water and where they're putting it, what it's made of and things like that, which I think is a shame, because I suppose the best of both worlds, if you want to spend £1,200 on a pod or whatever, but do the stuff to catch more fish. And that's what I think is missing a lot. I really, really do.
It's all about looking good.
Right, well, I'm going to, Ian, I've taken up loads of time. We'll have to do it again, mate, because there was loads of other things, but we've shot past, and Keith will tell me off on Tuesday. But thanks ever so much for popping in. Sorry the comms have done what they normally do, but we got there eventually. I don't know why my whole face is filling out the screen. I know it's fat, but there we go. But let me just turn round the camera. So tonight's winner, live draw winner, is James, Stinson. Well done, James. Congratulations. I've got some other stuff to send you, so I'll make sure that goes out with it as well. So congratulations, James. Thank you, everybody, for staying with me with all of the grief and hassle. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Ian, for being with us. And everybody have a great week. Fingers, Jason's going to PM you, Ian. Fantastic. Like I say, anything, reach out to us if we can help. Any questions, whatever, we're here to help. But I suppose in summary, do question everything and assume nothing, because I promise you, if you make some tweaks, you're going to catch a lot more fish. It's not all about, you know, a lot of the stuff out there is not realistic. You've got anglers out there who are high profile. They haven't got jobs or houses and things. They can sit by a lake for a day. We haven't got that opportunity, so use your time wisely and have a think about it. And like I say, do question some of the stuff. And I'm not saying it to be bloody minded. I could toe the party line. Pallatrax could be so much more of a successful company in the eyes of the public, but I wouldn't be telling you where I come from, the truth as far as I'm concerned. So question everything, folks. Honestly, there's a lot out there that is questionable. Not being anti-angling, I'm being very positive. I think we love the sport even more if we're catching more fish.
Absolutely.
Ian, stay safe, mate. I'll speak to you very soon.
See you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great night.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Good night. Bye-bye.